Now, a local content policy which encourages the development of local capacity is one of several measures driving the growth of indigenous oil companies in Nigeria. However, players require huge capital to maximize the emerging opportunities, and earlier CNBC Africa's Oluwatosin Olaseyinde spoke to Kayode Akinkugbe, the CEO of FBN Capital, about equity capital raising by emerging indigenous companies in the oil and gas space. Take a look.
The oil and gas sector is still a very dominant segment in the Nigerian economy. In fact, many people will call Nigeria an oil economy. And you know, when you talk to international investors, they link our fortunes to, in fact, the oil price. So clearly, if you call yourself a dominant institution, particularly in the financial services space in Nigeria, you must have a very strong oil and gas practice. And that's what I think we have at FBN Capital. We think it's a very interesting and vibrant segment of the economy. I mean, we're seeing a lot more indigenous participation in the oil and gas segment. And in many ways, we as domestic institutions are supporting these indigenous companies in their various initiatives. So we see a lot of activity. We think it continues to be an interesting investment opportunity for those who are either indigenous players who are looking to expand their businesses, or even foreign investors who are looking to diversify their portfolios.
We have seen more of indigenous companies participate in the markets, though we've seen divestment by IOCs. To enable the indigenous companies, how can they raise equity on the markets?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons for hosting the oil and gas roundtable that we're hosting today is really to discuss precisely that topic. We've seen a number of Nigerian banks support indigenous companies in acquiring some of the assets that have been divested by the IOCs. But what we haven't seen enough of, I believe, is the non-bank financial community. So that is the capital markets, for example, and sort of mutual funds, etc., coming to invest, in these opportunities. And what we really wanted to sort of bring out as much as possible is what it takes to be able to raise equity for some of these indigenous companies. There's always a very sensitive discussion around dilution and selling of equity. But in many cases, we find that companies are looking to finance major development programs. They're looking to make some transformational transactions. And really, when you are looking to make huge commitments like that, it does make sense to consider diversifying your risk. So we think it is, this is a segment of the market that isn't discussed enough. And, if I may say, for selfish reasons, FBN Capital wants to be right in the middle of it. And that's why we're motivating this kind of discussion we're having today.
Are sufficient steps being taken to spur activities by indigenous companies?
Most definitely. I'm very optimistic about that. Our objective is to get people thinking. Transactions won't happen overnight. But to get people thinking and to get people to better understand that this is not necessarily a walk in the park. Really, to do transactions successfully, you need to be well prepared. And I think that's what we're trying to get some of the oil and gas companies that we have represented here today. I'm very glad to say at the CEO level, how you link your strategic objectives with your financial plan. And really, I think that you will see a lot more informed and discerning operators, getting a better view about what's the roadmap on how they can go about raising equity or mezzanine capital.